The Red Sox have a really tough decision to make, and it's a decision that needs to be made soon. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Red Seat Radio. My name is Corbin, and Trevor Story is officially on his way back. Alex Cora announced yesterday that Trevor Story will begin his rehab assignment on Friday with AA Portland, which gives the Boston Red Sox exactly 20 days from Friday at maximum to figure out which middle infielders of this Red Sox team are staying and which Red Sox middle infielders are going. And this may be a more interesting conversation than you think. So what we are going to do in today's video is break it all down. We're going to talk about the possible candidates for leaving this Red Sox team. We're going to talk about why they could stay, why they could go, and we're ultimately going to try and decide what the best move for the Boston Red Sox will be once Trevor Story is good to come back to this team. But before we get into that, just a heads up, tomorrow night right around 7 p.m. we are going to be live on this channel. So Thursday at 7 p.m. we are going to be live. There is no game, so instead what we are going to do is we are going to do a Red Sox hot stove. We're going to be talking about roster moves like this one. We're going to be talking about possible trade ventures for the Red Sox. We're going to talk about the rest of this season. We're going to talk about everything and anything you guys want to talk about tomorrow night live and in person at 7 p.m. Eastern time. So if you haven't been to one yet, I highly recommend doing so. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one. Let's get into it. Currently, the Boston Red Sox have 6 active middle infielders on their 40-man roster. 2 of them are minor league players, David Hamilton, who's currently playing for the Worcester Red Sox, and Manuel Valdez, who's currently on the injured list for the Worcester Red Sox. You've also got Pablo Reyes, who's currently rehabbing. I think he's in Portland. I'm not exactly sure. Then, of course, you've got the guys on the 26-man roster who are with the big league club: Christian Arroyo, Kike Hernandez, and Yu Chang. Like I said in the intro, the Red Sox have, once Trevor Story starts his rehab assignment, 20 days until he can rejoin this Red Sox team, right? And that's the absolute maximum. It could end up being less than that, but it can't be any more than that. So at maximum, they have 20 days, which would put the Red Sox deadline to make this decision on August 10th. Now, the obvious answer here would be, hey, why don't we just get rid of one of the guys in the minor league on this 40-man roster, right? Why don't we just trade one of or both of and Manuel Valdez and David Hamilton? Neither of these guys are going to be massive parts of the future of the Boston Red Sox. While Valdez does have some value and did do well at the major league level, David Hamilton seems like he's going to be more of a fringe guy, more of a utility guy, more of a quad A type player. Why don't we just trade one of those guys? And that would immediately open up room on the 40-man roster for Trevor Story to get back into this active team. And while that would work out in terms of getting him on the 40-man roster, the problem with that solution is that there's still no room for him at the major league level, right? Because there's a big difference between being on the 40-man and being on the 26-man Red Sox roster. And right now, both Valdez and David Hamilton aren't there. So trading one of those guys, yes, could probably bring you something. We talked about what it could probably bring you yesterday, but it's not going to be the solution in getting Trevor Story back to the Boston Red Sox. So what that means is that even if you trade one of those guys, one of either Pablo, Kike, Yu Chang, or Christian Arroyo is going to have to go in order to make room for Trevor Story at the big league level. So taking a look at the possible candidates here, it's a bit of an interesting conversation about which one really has the least amount of value for this Red Sox team. You've got Pablo Reyes, who's been pretty solid for the Red Sox, both offensively and defensively this year. Offensively at the plate, he has a .303 average with a .338 on base percentage and a really low .364 slug, which is why his OPS plus is sitting at 89, which would be about 11% below league average production. On the field, he's a plus defender in every position he's played. He has 2 defensive runs saved at shortstop, and at second, he has 1 defensive run saved as well. So overall, he's been fairly good at everything the Red Sox have asked from him since joining the team. You've got Yu Chang, who's not been very good for the Red Sox at the plate. He's currently hitting just .154 with a .191 on base percentage and a .354 slug. Good for just a 42 OPS plus, or about 58% below league average production. But where Yu Chang really excels is defensively, right? He has about the same amount of defensive runs saved as Pablo Reyes, which is 2, but overall, he has been an absolute spark plug defensively for the Boston Red Sox. His current record as the starting shortstop for this Red Sox team is 12-5. When he is out there, the Red Sox are winning at a pretty impressive clip, and it's because of what he can do defensively. So while Yu Chang doesn't have a ton of value offensively, defensively, he definitely does. Christian Arroyo sort of your middle ground on both sides of the ball here. At the plate, he's 247 average with a 277 on base percentage, and again, a fairly low slug at 382. Good for a 75 OPS plus, or about 25% below league average production. So somewhere in the middle of what you were getting from Reyes and what you were getting from Yu Chang. On top of that too, just a quick note, Christian Arroyo also has the most at-bats on this list, so that could also be a factor as well. As Yu Chang and as Pablo Reyes grow a bigger sample size, their numbers could get better or worse. But either way, Christian Arroyo fairly okay at the plate, but definitely has his struggles. On the field, he's a pretty decent defensive second baseman. He has 1 defensive run saved at second base, which is 1 defensive run saved more than the average player in baseball. So not exactly a crazy defender, but a really solid second baseman. He's also a guy who's going to grind it out, right? He's going to be a guy who gets dirty. He's going to put his body on the line. Christian Arroyo does have value as sort of this, he's decent at both sides of the ball type mentality. The final candidate here, and I think we all know exactly what Kike's done this year, but it hasn't been good on either side of the ball, right? If Christian Arroyo's kind of the middle, Kike Hernandez is kind of the bottom. Offensively, he is just a 218 average with a 277 on base percentage and a 319 slug. Good for just a 60 OPS plus, or again, 40% below league average production. And defensively, he's been terrible at shortstop, right? I don't think we need to dive deep into these metrics to figure out exactly how bad Kike's been at shortstop, but just quickly, he has -5 defensive runs saved. That is 5 defensive runs saved less than the average player in baseball. Statistically, one of the worst defenders in baseball this year, specifically at shortstop. But outside of shortstop, he does have some value defensively, right? He is above average in defensive runs saved in the outfield, specifically center field, and he's average in defensive runs saved at second base. So as much as Kike Hernandez has had terrible statistics on both sides of the ball this year, he does still have some value if you don't play him at shortstop. So which one deserves to go? I think the obvious correct answer here is Kike Hernandez, considering he's given you the least amount of value on both sides of the ball so far this year, but there is a case to be made for every single one of these guys, right? Yu Chang offensively is giving you absolutely nothing, so all of his value is coming from his defense, and with Trevor Story coming back and manning shortstop, Yu Chang's value kind of goes down a little bit, right? We talked about his winning percentage when he's the starting shortstop of the Boston Red Sox. What does it look like when he's a more utility type role, when he's playing second base or when he's playing first base or third base, right? It may be a bit of a different story. Then you look at Christian Arroyo, who hasn't blown the cover off the baseball so far this year, but he's been fairly solid at second base. But at the same time, too, he's not really excelling in any single one category. Then you have Pablo Reyes, who does give you versatility defensively, but so does everyone else on this list. So what does Pablo Reyes do that excels over these other 3 candidates? Is it his offense? Well, I mean, it's slightly better than everyone else, but it's not insanely better, right? It's sort of picking the best of the mediocre options right now. And right now, the lowest of these options has to be Kike Hernandez. So what do the Red Sox do? Well, the good news here is that the MLB trade deadline is smack in the middle of when Trevor Story starts his rehab and when Trevor Story supposedly is going to come back, right? That gives the Red Sox a little bit of wiggle room here in trying to figure out which player ends up off the team and which players end up on the team, right? If I'm the Boston Red Sox, I'm using this MLB trade deadline to try and make a hole in this Red Sox roster to fit Trevor Story. Again, the obvious answer to this question is trade Kike Hernandez. The problem with that is you're getting little to no value, right? If any value at all. Best case scenario here is that the Red Sox can trade trade Kike Hernandez and the $5 million remaining on his salary, a team picks up $2 million of that and gives you a AA, AAA journeyman type reliever who probably won't be any impact at the major league level, but will be something that the Red Sox can take back from trading Kike Hernandez. What this also does is not only open up a spot for Trevor Story, but it would also give you $1 or $2 more million to play with at the MLB deadline, which doesn't sound like a lot, but when you only have about $5 million until you reach the first tax threshold, $1 to $2 million can be the difference between acquiring one mediocre player or two decent players or one really good player. So trading Kike Hernandez to me makes the most sense, but again, there are other cases to be made for everyone else. The other option here is that the Red Sox go and they just flat out DFA someone. Now, I don't think they would end up DFAing Christian Arroyo because I think he does have value as being sort of decent at both sides of the ball, and I don't think they're going to DFA Kike Hernandez because, again, he does have that salary attached to him, and why eat that salary instead of trying to get someone to pick up even part of his salary right now? So that would leave either Reyes or Yu Chang, which in my opinion, the correct answer there would be Yu Chang, right? As much as I love what Yu Chang has been able to do defensively, he has done absolutely nothing for you offensively overall throughout this year. He's had some pretty decent home runs and some pretty decent times, but overall, he's given you basically nothing offensively. And again, once Trevor Story comes back, there's a question as to how much value Yu Chang really has. You want a utility man? Well, if you keep Kike, he's above average defense at second base and outfield. If you keep Arroyo, he's going to give you above average defense at second base and could be your everyday starting second baseman. And if you keep Pablo Reyes, he's going to give you the same defensive value as Yu Chang does with a little bit more pop. So in my opinion, if I'm running the Boston Red Sox right now, the first thing I am going to try and do to make room for Trevor Story would be kill two birds with one stone, and that would be trading Kike Hernandez again for basically nothing, but at the bare minimum trying to get some money off of his money owed, right? If they can do that, they could really put themselves in a better position at the MLB deadline, and you have the depth on this team to fill in what Kike Hernandez was giving you defensively outside of shortstop. If that does not work, then I think the correct answer is to DFA Yu Chang, because again, you're losing the least amount of value by letting him go and paying someone else to pick up his contract. But that's just my opinion. So in the comment section down below, let me know what you guys would do with Trevor Story on his way back. With their sort of a deadline to figure out what the roster crunch needs to be, what is your decision? Are you just flat out DFAing Kike? Are you trading someone? Are you DFAing someone else? What are you doing to make room for Trevor Story on the Boston Red Sox? Let me know all your thoughts in the comment section down below. As always, if you made it to the end of this video, do me a favor. Make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're new here, we talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys have hit the like button on this video as well. Helps these videos out a ton, and it would mean a lot to me. Don't forget, we are going to be live tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Eastern time. We're talking basically everything related to Boston Red Sox baseball, so be there. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one, and I will see you in the red seats.